Hello again, ladies and gentle tubers. Hopefully you've checked out part 1 of this 2-part build video, where I go through the construction of the frame of these go-karts. Here in part 2 we're going to go through the final assembly of the karts. It's all pretty straightforward when it comes to installing wheels and axles, but I do have some modifications to go through as we progress. I sourced pretty much all the parts on Amazon, and I've got a list of them in the links below. As always, any purchases made through Amazon with these links will help in a small way finance the next film or so, without adding to the cost of your purchases. I did the final weld up of the frame with my stick welder, and I know a lot of you would say a MIG welder or TIG welder would be best, and this much is true. However, I don't have a MIG welder, and my TIG welding is nowhere near as good as my stick welding. Each union has had a penetrating weld pass as well as a filling weld pass, so I can assure you the welds are very strong. As with a lot of the parts sourced from Amazon, they are a little mismatched, as they come from China and don't necessarily match other parts that you purchase. Here I've had to change out the rear sprocket as it doesn't match the torque converter output sprocket or chain that I purchased. I've also modified the steering wheel to accommodate a thumb throttle, simply because I didn't want the young fella having a foot throttle as well as a foot brake. The thumb throttle was designed to mount to handlebars, so I've cut away a piece of the steering wheel rubber to allow it to be screwed to the right position on the steering wheel. It was a pretty simple fix with great results. Through the magic of losing a bunch of footage, I've mounted some motorcycle foot grips, as well as the seat bracket and its small shock absorber. The back brake was a bit of a pain in the neck to install. I ended up having to mount the master cylinder forward of the brake lever to allow space for the engine and carburetor. I used a riv nut set to allow bolts to be positioned on the frame. However, the brakes are pretty lackluster thanks to the cheap kit that I purchased and its seeming inability to be bled. If anyone's got ideas on how to improve this, please leave a suggestion. Likewise, the steering rack was a nightmare. Thanks to my tight wheel spacing, it all needed to be shrunk down, so I stripped it right back to the literal rack and pinion, removed the bushes and rubber boots, and welded up my own solution. The positive side effect of this was it removed all of the backlash inherent in the original unit. It was then simply a matter of replacing the rubber boots, and because I used the supplied tie rod adjusters, I still had plenty of adjustment to make sure my front wheels were still pointing in the right direction. I bought these Extreme Power US 7 horsepower engines off Amazon. They're a Honda GX 200 clone, just a whole heap cheaper. And I stripped off all the engine accessories to fit my own. I also removed the engine's governor, which if you're interested in learning more about, you can search on YouTube and find a multitude of videos. The only power improvements I'm doing is a new exhaust system and this Mikuni carburetor, and it all fits up pretty nicely to the engine. Then it was simply a matter of slotting the engine in and hooking it all up. Using a cheap 30 series torque converter, which seems to do the job just fine, and I somehow managed to fluke positioning the chain perfectly either side of the frame crossmember. ended up buying 3 different sorts of plastic seats in an attempt to get something pre-made, but none of the seats were any good. They were even too small for my 11-year-old's backside, so I decided to make my own. There was a BMW cafe racer I saw a while back that had a skateboard style seat. To get the bend in the plywood, it requires slicing with a saw blade not quite all the way through. This allows you to bend the plywood without breaking it. Once it is glued in the required position, you can then laminate another thin sheet of plywood over the top to give it structure. It all turned out pretty nice, and I added a 1/2-inch sheet of neoprene over the top for extra comfort and to stop us from slipping off the seats. So the final bits were simply to add the exhaust pipe, which I had ordered too long and with many bends, so that I could cut and weld it down to size. It's a stainless steel exhaust pipe, so welds beautifully with 316 stainless rods. I wrapped it with insulator tape to stop us from getting burnt, and because it looks great. I then screwed on the seat and the fuel tank, and we're all done. I hope you enjoyed my first go-kart build. I do plan on doing a bit of a walk around review and send movie after this to let everyone know how it actually rides and what I've done to make it more manageable. So on that note, please like and subscribe so you can keep up to date with this build and many other projects on Build, Grow, Play. Thank you.